Then what are some things that you think make for a good energy in a studio session like that? Physically and maybe even remotely too. Like what are some things that really set the stage properly for that?
That's a good question, one I haven't given a lot of thought to. I would say that just one, if you have good chemistry with who you're so in a studio setting, if you have good chemistry with the people, that's honestly one of the biggest hurdles to get over is that, you just work better with some people than others. I've worked with a lot of guitarists, and while they've all been very, very talented, I have one session player who I always insist on calling first, just because, and I have nothing against the other guys. It's just that, like, he and I get each other.
Mm.
And so we work really well together, and we can communicate in few words and get really good takes, right? And
Right.
so I think that that's really helpful, just the chemistry you have with people. And there is something to note here that you can like someone and not have good chemistry with them musically. And that is perfectly fine. Like if I'm saying like, oh, the music isn't working out, that doesn't mean that like I dislike you as a person. Cause like I know people and like we know each other. We'll go to a party and have a good conversation with each other, but like we just don't gel when we're making music. And like
Mm.
that's fine. And that's important to recognize.
Sure.
Right. I mean, obviously, you don't want to work with someone who you're like, I can't stand just being in the same room as them, right? Like, you don't want to work with those people. And I have
Right.
not encountered anyone like that, thank God, right?
Uh-huh.
But there are just like some people that you just gel with when you're making music better than others. And I think that it's important to just shop around until you find those people, you find your go-to people.
This is a question that you can completely opt to not answer because I
Okay.
realize it's a tricky one.
Mm.
What are some indicators to you that you gel with somebody musically? Like, what do you look for in those interactions?
That's a hard one to describe. When you
Sure.
meet someone at a party and you're like, wow, we really hit it off. And you can't really say why you hit it off. You just know that you did. That's how it is musically. Like, I remember literally the day before, 2 days before lockdown in California.
Okay.
We were recording one of my songs, and like midway through the day, I was like, oh, we really need a guitarist for like these two songs. And Rayto was like, I'm gonna hire. He's like, I don't know if our usual people are available. I know that this other guy, Isaac, he might be free and he's in a band. And I was like, sure, we have the studio booked, like
Yep.
call him, right? Talk to him. He comes in. I've never met this person in my life. And he like takes out his guitar, and I had given him the demos the week before. He takes out his guitar and like the song's just kind of playing, and he started just like playing something that I really liked. And I go, that sounds great. We should like, I was like, I know that like that wasn't on the demo, but that sounds great. We need to record that. And he and I just like, we were like mind melding. We're just looking at each other like, mm-hmm. And like, it was funny because Rito and Ed weren't on the same page.
Okay.
They're kind of just like, they're watching this go down. Right. And so I don't really know if they quite understand why I always now insist on this one particular guitarist, but it's just kind of like, we get each other, and I can say, hey, how about, and I'll just give the most like brief or the most random description. You know how we all are. We're like,
Sure.
What if it's like shimmery? And
Yep.
There's no professional talk like, oh, I think we need to add some sawtooth, like
Yeah.
No, we need a more square wave sound. No, I'm like, how about like bubbles, And he's like, I got you. Right. Yeah. So he and I just, we have musical chemistry. I don't know how else to say it.
I feel like that's such a great answer to that question. Like the analogy of meeting somebody at a party and having a conversation and just having an intuitive sense of, oh, I've clicked with this person in some way, and trusting your intuition enough to know that that is something worth exploring creatively is, I think, such a skill. And it sounds like you've really developed that for connecting with other artists and session players and producers and just other creatives and being like, you know what, like I can't articulate it with words, but speaking musically or speaking in whatever creative medium you guys are working in, like that connection is not something you should ignore. And it sounds like you really sharpened that ability. So I think that was a great answer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe it. And it's, you recognize it when it's in front of you.
It's one of those intangible things of being an artist in a lot of forms, right? Is being able to trust your gut on something without necessarily having the words to describe it. And I feel like that's something where a lot of creators maybe find themselves getting trapped or kind of painted into a corner where it's like, well, because so much of what we do today is how do you quantify it, right? With posting on social media and trying to handle kind of the more left brain side of being an artist and posting and getting a fan base and all this stuff and sharing your work with the world. It's rewarded to be able to quantify stuff in that domain. But then when you step into the process, especially early on, like talking about pre-production, talking about seeding ideas, talking about locking in and not being able to exactly articulate how, but for everybody that's in the room, being able to sit there and go, no, like that was something special that we could not replicate on demand. Right? The interview with Rick Rubin that I shared a few weeks back or like a week ago, that I'm realizing that this is probably just a restatement of that, which is, you want to set the stage and then just be ready to hit record when the magic happens. And the magic being that intangible element, right? So it's really cool to hear you describe that, how you get a sense for that and kind of the point at which it goes from this is a good, we'll meet this person to, oh, this is somebody who I can speak in abstract terms to, and they'll understand what I'm saying, or they'll take it and run with it in a constructive way.
Hey friends, if you liked that clip of the Create Connected podcast, you might like listening to the entire episode using the link on screen.